The organ swelled into the triumphant strains of Mendelssohn's Wedding March, but Emily Harper's heart pounded like a war drum, drowning out the melody. She stood at the altar of St. Mary's Chapel in downtown Seattle, her ivory gown whispering against the polished oak floor, every eye in the pews fixed on her, friends from her tech job at Amazon, family who'd flown in from Portland, and Tom, her fiancé, beaming with that boyish grin that had once made her feel safe. In that frozen instant, as the priest raised his hands to begin, a tiny voice pierced the air like a shard of glass. "Stop. Please don't marry him. Marry my mommy instead." The chapel erupted in murmurs, heads swiveling toward the aisle where little Lily Ramirez, all 6 years of fierce determination, barreled forward in her rumpled pink tulle dress, clutching a wilted daisy like a talisman. Emily's breath caught, her bouquet slipping from numb fingers to scatter petals across the runner. Tom's smile faltered, his broad shoulders tensing under his tuxedo as he turned, confusion etching lines on his handsome face. But Emily? She dropped to her knees right there, the layers of lace pooling around her like surrendered waves, and pulled Lily into her arms, the girl's small body trembling against her chest. "Oh, sweet girl," Emily whispered, her voice cracking as tears spilled hot down her cheeks. "You have no idea how much I've dreamed of hearing that." The gasp that rippled through the crowd was thunderous, but Emily didn't look up, not at Tom, not at the sea of stunned faces. In that moment, with Lily's curls tickling her chin, the truth she'd buried for months clawed its way free, raw and unyielding. It had started innocently enough, 6 months earlier, in the fluorescent hum of the Pike Place market on a drizzly autumn afternoon. Emily had been there to pick up fresh salmon for a dinner she hoped would finally spark something real with Tom. They'd been dating for 2 years, engaged for 1, but lately, every touch felt scripted, every conversation a polite detour around the growing chasm inside her. At 28, with her career in software development soaring and a cozy apartment overlooking Elliott Bay, Emily had convinced herself this was it. Stability, the American dream wrapped in a white picket fence. But as she haggled over the fish, a laugh bubbled up from the stall next door, warm, unfiltered, like sunlight breaking through Seattle's perpetual gray. She glanced over, and there was Sarah Ramirez, 32, with sun-kissed olive skin and raven hair tied back in a practical ponytail, her green eyes sparkling as she teased the vendor about overpriced lavender honey. Sarah was a single mom, a barista/freelance illustrator who poured her soul into sketchbooks and Lily's bedtime stories, her curves softened by the kind of effortless grace that came from chasing a toddler through rain-slicked streets. Their eyes met over a crate of heirloom tomatoes, and Sarah's smile hit Emily like a rogue wave, playful, knowing, pulling her under before she could catch her breath. "First time bargaining for fish?" Sarah asked, her voice laced with that faint Pacific Northwest lilt, honed from years in immigrant neighborhoods. Emily nodded, cheeks flushing, and just like that, they were chatting about the market's hidden gems, the way the fog rolled in like a secret, how life in the Emerald City could feel both vast and suffocating. By the time Emily walked away with her salmon and Sarah's number scribbled on a napkin, something had shifted. A spark, faint but insistent, flickering in the hollow space where certainty used to live. They met for coffee the next week at a hole-in-the-wall spot near Sarah's Capitol Hill apartment, Lily in tow, her chubby fists wrapped around a crayon as she doodled fantastical beasts on the paper placemat. "Mommy says you're going to be a superhero," Lily declared, peering up at Emily through lashes like tiny fans. Emily laughed, ruffling the girl's curls, but her gaze kept drifting to Sarah, the way her fingers traced the rim of her mug, calloused from pencils and coffee grounds, the faint scar on her knuckle from a long-ago kitchen mishap. Sarah talked about her ex, a fleeting musician who'd left when Lily was 2, about the quiet terror of raising a biracial kid in a world that sometimes stared too long. Emily listened, really listened for the first time in months, and felt seen in a way Tom's easy affections never reached. Weeks blurred into stolen afternoons, Park picnics where Lily chased pigeons and Emily and Sarah shared slices of marionberry pie, their knees brushing under checkered blankets. Late-night texts that veered from parenting hacks to dreams deferred. Sarah's sketches of queer icons hidden in her portfolio. Emily's confession over wine that she'd always wondered about the girls in her college dorm. The ones whose laughter lingered in her memories like perfume. One rainy evening, as thunder rumbled over Puget Sound, Sarah invited Emily over for emergency mac and cheese after a brutal shift. Lily was asleep by 9, her stuffed octopus tucked under one arm, and in the dim glow of the kitchen light, Sarah turned from the sink, suds dripping from her elbows, and said, "You know, you light up around her. Around us." The air thickened, charged like the storm outside, and Emily stepped closer, her hand trembling as it cupped Sarah's cheek. Their first kiss was tentative, a brush of lips tasting of cheddar and possibility, but it ignited everything. The loneliness Emily had armored herself against, the fierce protectiveness Sarah carried like a shield. From there, it was a whirlwind of hidden moments, each one etching deeper into Emily's soul. They'd sneak away to Discovery Park at dawn, where the salt air tangled their hair and Sarah's hand in Emily's felt like coming home. Lily, oblivious yet intuitive, started calling Emily Auntie Em with a possessiveness that melted hearts. "She thinks you're magic," Sarah whispered one night, as they lay tangled in sheets that smelled of jasmine and rain, Lily's baby monitor humming softly in the corner. Emily traced the constellation of freckles across Sarah's collarbone, her voice hushed with wonder. "No, she's the magic. You both are." But guilt gnawed at the edges, a shadow lengthening with every lie to Tom, every girls' night. That was really a ferry ride to Bainbridge Island, hands intertwined under the stars. Tom was kind, ambitious, the perfect partner on paper, but his kisses were brotherly now, his plans for a house in the suburbs a cage Emily couldn't breathe in. As the wedding loomed, the tension coiled tighter. Emily's bridesmaids cooed over the venue, a charming chapel with views of the Space Needle, but she stared at her reflection in the mirror, the veil framing eyes that no longer belonged to this life. Sarah kept her distance, her texts growing sparse, laced with pain. "I can't watch you walk down that aisle, Em. It'd break me." Lily, though, refused to let go. She'd sneak drawings into Emily's purse, stick figure families with two mommies holding hands under rainbow arches, and whisper at drop-offs, "When you marry Mommy, can I be the flower girl again?" Emily's heart fractured each time, the pull between duty and desire tearing her apart. She loved Tom, or thought she did, in the safe, familiar way of shared Netflix queues and weekend hikes. But Sarah? Sarah was the storm, the color, the truth that had slumbered in Emily's bones since she was a girl stealing glances at her best friend's sister. The night before the wedding, Emily drove to Sarah's in the pouring rain, wipers slashing like accusations. Lily was at a sleepover, leaving the apartment achingly quiet. Sarah opened the door in an oversized sweater, her eyes red-rimmed, and pulled Emily inside without a word. They collapsed onto the couch, rain pattering against the windows like impatient fingers. "I can't do it," Emily sobbed, burying her face in Sarah's neck. "Tomorrow I have to say vows to a man who isn't you." Sarah held her, fingers threading through damp hair, her own tears silent. "Then don't. Walk away, Em. Choose us." But fear clamped down, family expectations, the deposit on the venue, the what-ifs of a world that still whispered about women like them. Emily left at midnight, the decision unmade, her ring a lead weight on her finger. Now, back in the chapel, with Lily's plea echoing off the vaulted ceilings, the dam broke. Emily rose slowly, her hand lingering on the girl's shoulder, and turned to Tom. The crowd held its breath, a collective inhale that pressed against her skin. Tom's face was a mask of bewilderment, his blue eyes searching hers for the punchline that never came. "Tom," she said, her voice steady despite the quake in her chest, "I'm so sorry. I love you as a friend, as the brother I never had, but not like that." Not the way I love her. She glanced toward the back pew, where Sarah stood frozen, having slipped in late, uninvited, her simple black dress a stark contrast to the floral explosion around her. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide with a mix of terror and fragile hope. The priest cleared his throat awkwardly, guests shifting in their seats, Emily's conservative aunt clutching her pearls, Tom's best man half standing with a forgotten champagne flute. Whispers swelled. Is this a joke? Did she just? But Emily stepped forward, unlacing her veil with deliberate care, letting it drift to the floor like a shed skin. This wedding, she announced, her words carrying to every corner, was a mistake from the start. Because my heart was never here. It was with Sarah and Lily, from the first laugh in the market. She extended her hand to Lily. And yes, little one, if your mommy will have me, I would be honored to marry her.
Today.
Right now. Gasps turned to stunned silence, then a smattering of applause from the younger crowd, phones already lighting up with furtive videos. Tom blinked, processing, then nodded slowly, a sad smile tugging at his lips. Go get your happy ending, Em, he said, voice thick, stepping aside with quiet dignity. The priest, bless his adaptable soul, adjusted his notes. Well then, shall we pivot to a different union? Laughter bubbled up, tentative at first, easing the tension like a bomb. Sarah moved then, as if in a dream, weaving through the aisle with Lily skipping beside her, the daisy now tucked behind her ear. She reached Emily at the altar, their fingers intertwining, palms slick with nerves and promise. Up close, Sarah's eyes shimmered, green depths reflecting the stained glasses' kaleidoscope. You sure? She murmured, just for them. Emily leaned in, forehead to forehead, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender and home. More sure than I've ever been. Lily tugged at their hands, beaming. Now kiss. Like in the movies. Their lips met softly, a seal on the chaos, the chapel fading to a distant hum. Cheers erupted, wild, affirming, as Emily pulled back, her world realigned in the circle of Sarah's arms and Lily's giggle. In that Seattle sanctuary, under the watchful eyes of skeptics and supporters alike, love had interrupted the script, rewriting it with ink that wouldn't fade. But as the adrenaline ebbed, Emily knew this was just the beginning, the real work of blending lives, facing judgments, building a family from fragments. Yet, with Sarah's steady gaze anchoring her, the fear felt conquerable, the future a canvas wide and waiting. The reception that wasn't a reception unfolded in the chapel's garden, strung with fairy lights that twinkled against the gathering dusk. Tables groaned under potluck contributions. Emily's mom had insisted on her famous crab cakes, Tom's sister brought vegan sliders in solidarity, and the air buzzed with a peculiar energy, like the aftermath of an earthquake where the ground had shifted but held. Lily darted between legs, a pint-sized ambassador, declaring to anyone who'd listen, Auntie Em's marrying Mommy now, with cake. Sarah watched her with a soft smile, but her free hand never left Emily's, fingers laced in quiet defiance. Emily's Aunt Beatrice cornered her near the punch bowl, her silver hair impeccable despite the upheaval. Darling, this is unexpected, she said, voice pitched low, the word, unexpected, carrying the weight of generations. Emily straightened, the champagne flute cool against her palm. Aunt B, it was unexpected to me too for a long time, but pretending otherwise? That was killing me. Beatrice's lips pursed, then softened, her hand patting Emily's arm. Your mother raised a fighter. Just be happy, child. That's all we ever wanted. The concession, small as it was, felt like absolution. Tom found them later, nursing a beer by the rose arbor, his tie loosened like a noose finally cut. Hey, he said, pulling Emily into a hug that lingered a beat too long, brotherly now in truth. You okay? She nodded against his shoulder, guilt twisting fresh. I never meant to hurt you. He pulled back, eyes crinkling with that familiar warmth. You didn't. Or if you did, It's the kind that heals. Go live your truth, Em. I'll be fine, probably elope with my surfboard next time. Laughter eased the knot at her chest, and as he walked away, clapping Sarah on the back with a "take care of her," Emily exhaled, the first full breath since the altar. Night deepened, the city lights winking from afar like conspirators. Sarah drew Emily aside to a bench overlooking the fountain. Lily conked out in a stroller nearby, thumb in mouth. "What now?" Sarah asked, her voice a velvet thread in the quiet. Emily traced the line of Sarah's jaw, committing it to memory anew. "Now? We figured out. Therapy, maybe unpack the mess I made. Tell Lily everything, age appropriately. And love, Sarah." Fiercely. Sarah's eyes glistened, her thumb brushing Emily's knuckles. "I've been loving you fiercely since that napkin. But, the world out there? It's not always kind to families like ours." Emily nodded, the weight of it settling, not crushing, but real. Seattle was progressive on paper, with pride flags fluttering from every lamppost, but microaggressions lurked in school pickups, in sidelong glances at the grocery store when two women pushed a cart with a single kid. Sarah had stories: the co-worker who'd jokingly asked if Lily was adopted, the landlord who'd raised the rent after spotting Emily's overnight bag. "We'll shield her," Emily vowed, her tech brain already spinning solutions. Apps for queer parent networks, a will with ironclad protections. "And when it's hard, we'll come here, to this garden, and remember how we started with a crash." Their second kiss of the night was deeper, unhurried, tasting of fizzy punch and unspoken tomorrows. Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring, "magic," and they broke apart laughing, tears mingling. As guests trickled out, some with hugs, others with awkward waves, Emily felt the humanistic pulse of it all, love as rebellion, as grace, as the quiet revolution of choosing authenticity over applause. The bride who'd almost been was gone. In her place stood a woman ready to build, to falter, to rise. Months later, the Real wedding came on a crisp spring day at Gasworks Park, the skeletal towers of old gasification plants framing the lake like ancient guardians. No organ, just an acoustic guitar strumming, At Last by Etta James, Lily scattering petals with gleeful abandon in a dress of rainbow tulle. Emily wore a simple sundress in soft blue, Sarah in emerald green that matched her eyes, their vows handwritten on recycled paper, promises laced with humor and grit. "I vow to hold your hand through PDA meetings and panic attacks," Emily said, voice steady, "and to remind you daily that you're the bravest woman I know." Sarah's response drew chuckles. "I promise to share the covers, even when Lily hogs them, and to love you through every Seattle downpour, because that's when you're at your softest." The crowd was smaller, handpicked, queer couples who'd mentored Sarah, Emily's college friends who'd suspected all along, Tom's family surprisingly present with toasts that bridged old divides. Lily, ring bearer this time, toddled forward with pillow in arms, declaring, "Now you're stuck forever," before tackling their legs in a group hug. As they kissed, sealing it under a sky streaked with contrails, Emily felt the drama of that interrupted day transmute into something golden, not perfection, but presence. Life unfolded in fits and starts after that. Emily quit her soul-sucking project at work, pivoting to a startup building apps for LGBTQ+ mental health, her code now infused with purpose. Sarah's illustrations bloomed into a children's book series, tales of girls with two moms adventuring through enchanted markets, dedicated for Lily, who knew first. Mornings were chaos, Emily brewing coffee while Sarah braided Lily's hair, the apartment alive with giggles and the sizzle of pancakes. Evenings brought quiet intimacies, reading aloud by the bay window, Sarah's head on Emily's lap, the city's hum a lullaby. Challenges came, as they must. Lily's preschool teacher raised an eyebrow at parent-teacher night, her questions veiled barbs about family dynamics. Emily's dad, ever the stoic engineer, sent a stiff email about concerns, but showed up anyway for Lily's birthday, teaching her to build Lego bridges with a gruff tenderness that cracked his shell. Through it all, their love was the anchor. Nights when Sarah traced Emily's wedding band, whispering gratitude. Lazy Sundays where Emily pushed Lily on swings, Sarah sketching from the sidelines, her heart full to bursting. One evening, as autumn painted the leaves gold once more, they returned to Pike Place, Lily now 7 and taller, tugging them toward the fish stall. "This is where it started," she crowed, eyes alight. Emily squeezed Sarah's hand, the napkin long gone but its echo eternal. In the crush of tourists and vendors, with the market's symphony swirling around them, Emily leaned in. "Best interruption of my life." Sarah smiled, that sunlit curve that had hooked her soul. "Ours too, love. All of it." And in the years that followed, as Lily grew into a whip-smart kid with her mother's fire, Emily often thought back to that chapel shockwave, not as a scandal, but as a salvation. Love, she learned, wasn't a straight aisle to certainty. It was the detour, the dare, the little girl with a daisy who reminded you to choose the heart's wild path. In a world quick to judge, their story became a quiet testament to courage, to chosen family, to the profound humanity of loving without apology.